Hopefully you've seen the video where we talked about the introduction to the 3-bucket approach. And in our previous video, we talked about the order that we go in. We list all of our assets, and then we fill up these buckets in this order. So in the last video, we talked about what is the liquid bucket all about? What are the rules for the liquid bucket? How much money should you have in the liquid bucket? Today, I want to talk about the income bucket because that's where we go next. We're going to fill up all of these buckets in this order. And again, I want to remind everybody, whatever we don't put here, we get to use here. Whatever we don't use here, we get to use here. We're going to save this topic for another time. So how much money of your total assets should you put in the income bucket? So there's a few things to think through when we're thinking about the income bucket. And here is kind of the formula. Number one, everyone has to determine your income need. Determine your income need. And we've talked about this before, Marvin. When it comes to someone's income need in retirement, there's really 2 levels of income need. There is your living expenses and there is your lifestyle expenses. We want everyone to come up with a number. This number, again, is based on your goals. It's based on what does retirement look like to you and how much is that going to cost? How much do you need per month in order to pay all your bills? In retirement, how much you need per month to be able to do the things you're looking forward to do in retirement, whether it's travel or country club or RV or golf or whatever the case may be. You add those 2 numbers together, and we want everyone to come up with a monthly number. Sometimes people are used to doing a budget annually and these kinds of things, or weekly, but the way retirement income works is most people you're gonna start getting paid once a month. You get a once a month check from Social Security. If you're getting a pension, it's once a month. If you have annuity income, it's once a month. So we want to look at your expenses on a monthly basis. How much income do you need per month? That's number one. Number 2, then from that number, you're going to subtract any guaranteed income sources. So do you have any income that's coming in already that's guaranteed? So when you think about this, you want to think of Social Security. So that's a guaranteed source of income. So you would take your Social Security amount. And again, Marvin and I, we've talked about this before. When should you take Social Security? What is that amount going to be? And through consultation, we can help people figure out when that is. So we're going to take your income need. We're going to subtract what you're going to get from Social Security because that's a guaranteed income source. If you have a pension, we're going to subtract that number from what your income need is. If you already have an annuity, we'll look at that number. So these are the only 3 things that are guaranteed. So we're starting with guaranteed income. So if your income need is $5,000 a month and Social Security is going to provide $3,000 and you don't have pensions or annuities, it's going to be $5,000 minus $3,000. Ultimately, you take your income need, you subtract any guaranteed income sources, not withdrawals from 401ks or IRAs, only if it's guaranteed. And then you're going to solve for the gap. So typically, everyone has an income gap. And the income gap is the difference between what you need and what's already guaranteed. So we need to find out what that number is. This number is absolutely critical. Once we know this number and how many years from now you need it, then we could say, of your total assets, here's how much we need to put into this bucket to solve this number. So then the goal finally in this bucket is to use the least amount of assets to cover this gap. Okay, so we need to figure out what that gap is. Then we need to figure out what's the least amount of this money it would take to cover this gap at the time that you need it. And then we know whatever doesn't go here will get to go here. So this is the way it works. But the last thing to keep in mind about the liquid bucket is the income bucket. It is not liquid. So this is why I always tell everybody, Marvin, this number right here needs to be the least amount of your assets. Our goal is always to get our clients to use the least amount of your money to give you the income that you need. The reason that is because whatever we don't put here, we get to use here. The growth bucket is gonna be liquid. whatever we put in the income bucket, for all practical purposes, that money is no longer available. If I put money in this income bucket to draw an income stream from it, I can't go in there to buy a car. If I go in here to buy a car, my income stream is going down. It really doesn't matter what investment product we use to produce an income stream. Sometimes people want to use stocks that pay dividends, bonds that pay interest, annuities that guarantee the income. It doesn't matter which product we use. Regardless of what product we use, that portion of money is no longer liquid. So what we want to do is make sure it's the least amount of assets. I always tell everybody, if there is a game to retirement income planning, if there is a goal to retirement income planning, it is this, and that is you always want to use the least amount of your assets to guarantee the income that you need. So that's what we're trying to solve for here. And preferably, we want to guarantee it. So if you don't have a pension, you can buy your own pension with an annuity policy or something like this. I tend to prefer annuities in the income bucket for several reasons. One of which, it's the only thing that will guarantee you this income stream for as long as you're alive. Number two, and possibly more importantly, is it always takes less assets in an annuity to cover that gap than any other method. It just always does. And it's guaranteed. So ultimately, there's a little bit of math we have to do to determine the income bucket. How much income do you need? Subtract already known guaranteed sources. Find out what the gap is. Find out how much of your assets it will take to cover that gap in the year that you need it, and make sure it's guaranteed. This is going to be protected, guaranteed, and it's not liquid. But that's how you figure out how much goes into the income bucket.